can make retirement happen. After all, you made home ownership happen. Homeschooling yourself on loans, beefing up your credit score.
So I'm pre-approved.
You were like, yes! Sorry. Color-coding listings, ticking boxes, and flushing every toilet in a 20-mile radius. Home sweet home. You aced house hunting. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
There are road closures in the area that may be impacting your commute or are about to. I-490 is currently closed between East 55th and I-77 from now through May of 2021, while construction crews work on Section 3 of the Opportunity Corridor. Beginning Monday, June 17th, 77 North will be reduced to 2 lanes between Pershing Avenue and I-490 through September, where bridge and pavement work. And the West 45th Street ramp for the West Shoreway is closed now and for the next 5 months, while the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District continues its construction of the Westerly Storage Tunnel. Drivers on the Shoreway can access Detroit Avenue and other nearby streets by using the West 73rd or West 25th Street exit ramps. For more information, including detours and additional info, visit the Ohio Department of Transportation's website or call 216-581-2100. Thanks to Mayor Frank Jackson's enhanced budget, made possible by the passing of Issue 32, there's a lot of great road work happening in our neighborhoods. To find out what's going on, visit clevelandcityhall.com.
Welcome to almost the beginning of the second year of Safe Routes to School Demolition. If you recall, 2 years ago, this began. And so today we're going to highlight the demolition of the building behind you. And we're going to have Mayor Jackson come up in just a minute to speak, and then Councilman Blaine Griffin, and then Ayanna Budana will come up and wrap it up. And then we'll go into the demolition. Mayor?
All right, good morning. Good morning. As Dan mentioned, this event is about safe routes to school, but it is more encompassing than that. When I first became mayor in 2006, since then to last year, we've demolished over 10,000 properties. 10,000 properties. We have. At the end of this year, we'll have slightly less than 3,000 left. 3/4 of those will be part of our safe route to schools, meaning that they will be within 1,000 feet of a school and will be within that area that we focus on in creating safe routes to school. As you remember, during the financial crisis of 2008, 2009, there was a lot of abandonment, and the number of abandoned properties just shot up to, I believe, over 10,000 throughout the city. And we invested a lot of money then to try to keep up, let alone get ahead, just keeping up. But we were pretty persistent and consistent about doing it systematically, taking that approach and investing money. We had, just in safe routes to school alone, in the past 2 years, we've invested about $27 million in demolition, half of which is still remaining for us to finish out this year and to go into next year as the contractors can do the work. Overall, I believe we've invested, about 80 million or so in demolition since I've been mayor. So you can see the impact and the significance. Now, this building is significant for several reasons. The neighbors are telling me that it's been vacant for close to 30 years or so. It used to be a place of employment. People worked. But now it is, as you can see, it is what it is, and it is a hazard. It is on our safe route to school. So we're investing, and we're taking money and investing in large buildings that would normally we would not invest in because we didn't have the resources to do it, and it costs between asbestos and demolishing and the cleanup and everything. It's probably $800,000 to $900,000 for this, and so we with $800,000 or $900,000 we could tear down a lot of single-family homes. But now what we've done, since we've have a systematic approach and we see the results in the single-family homes, we're investing in these large structures like this. So safe route to school, but also, as you know, Opportunity Corridor has gone through either up, where is it? Down that way, right, come through. So as you can, it will create, this property becomes a very valuable piece of property if it's demolished, cleaned up, and ready for development. None of this happens, however, without the appropriation of funds, and we have Councilman Griffin here, and also Councilman Johnson. I believe this is in your ward.
This is Councilman Johnson's, but the building is in my ward.
All right, so that's the dividing line. And so we have two members of council here, and as I say, none of this happens without the appropriation of dollars that allows us as administration to move forward. So I want to introduce Councilman Griffin.
Thank you, Mayor. And I first want to say, I can acknowledge my colleague, Councilman Ken Johnson. We really do work as a partnership over here in the Ward 4 area. Everything that I do, we consult with each other. We share a lot of borders like this, and we don't look at our neighborhoods as if it stops at a border. We work collectively, so thank you for everything that he does. Every week I get a couple of calls that you can rest assured. I get a call every week or so from Linda Moody. I get a call every week or so from Marilyn Burns. I get a call sometimes more than every week with Miss Burns. I also get a call and get called regularly to meetings with Pastor Ernest Fields and the Buckeye Ministries Mission Alliance. And the reason why is because all of these, what I call neighborhood soldiers, are adamant about eradicating blight in our neighborhood and fighting against blight in our neighborhood. And I'll point out Miss Maryland specifically because she said, Blaine, we have to do something about this building. And I keep telling her, Miss Maryland, we're going to get it done. And thank you to Director Donald because we finally are getting it done. This building it represents our past. As Mayor said, this was a building that actually, I believe, measured X-ray images and other things like that, seismic material. It was actually cutting edge of its time in a very innovative market where you had jobs. Miss Moody was just telling me the person that actually used to own this home here actually used to work in this factory, and when they shut down and they moved away in the 1980s, she couldn't uproot her family and leave. So we lost that job, and we lost where a lot of neighbors used to work in this neighborhood and go here. So this actually represents our past, but it also represents our future. It represents our future because in this neighborhood, in order for us to move forward, we have to get rid of blighted structures like this in order to make sure that our streets are safe, in order to make sure that we have healthy neighborhoods, in order to make sure that we have an image of our community that everybody can be proud of. So there's a lot of people who never left this community who have fought for years to make this community great, and we owe it to them to make sure that we get rid of blighted structures like this. We're also in the process right now of trying to reinvigorate this area through investment. I know we have Denise Van Leer from Fairfax Renaissance Development and Tim Tramble from Burtonville Card Development Corporation, where we talk daily about strategies that we can reinvigorate and invest in this area. And I'll just tell you, and you'll hear from Mr. Patterson in a moment, I'll just tell you a couple of projects that we're really looking at focusing over here, thanks to the mayor and other initiatives in this area. The Thrive 105-93 corridor, the Opportunity Corridor, millions of dollars being invested. Woodhill up next. You'll hear from Mr. Patterson, where we have a very ambitious plan in order to try to update and upgrade the areas around not just the Woodhill Estates, but the geographical area around Woodhill Estates, and really try to reinvigorate that. The Mayor's Transformation Initiative goes along this area. Habitat for Humanity is building several homes. We have transportation for livable communities. And in the St. Luke's property, we have a lot of development going on there. So this area that has had so many years of neglect, so many years of abandonment, so many years of disinvestment, is now in a position to reinvest and to come into our area to really try to do some very strategic things. And once again, several residents that are surrounded by us today, the Woodhill, the Woodland residents, the CMHA residents, and we have several CMHA resident leaders here. We have Buckeye Ministers and Mission Alliance. We have several Ward 6 Precinct Committee people, Marilyn Burns, Ernest Turner, Aaron Knuckles. I mentioned Fairfax and Burton Bell Carr. But ladies and gentlemen, before I bring up Director Patterson, I want to tell you this is a new chapter for this area. No longer will we tolerate blight, neglect, abandonment. We will make sure that our communities are safe for our young people to walk safely to school. That's why this is important, to make sure that there are safe routes to school and to the rec center that we have approximately a half a mile to the west. And we'll make sure that we'll have a healthy Cleveland, a safer Cleveland, and ladies and gentlemen, a more prosperous Cleveland. That being said, I do want to bring up a partner who's been working closely with us to just give you a snapshot of how this building being torn down can help be the catalyst to something that we're really trying to do, which is Woodhill up next. And I want to bring up the CEO, President CEO of CMHA, Jeffrey Patterson.
Thank you, Council. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. First, I'd like to thank Mayor Jackson, Councilman Griffin, as well as Councilman Johnson for their work in bringing this to fruition. You know, our partners with Burton Bell Carr and Fairfax Development have all been looking at different ways that we can continue to work to upgrade and make development opportunities in this neighborhood. Around probably about a year ago, CMHA received a Choice Neighborhood Planning Grant for Woodhill Estates. Woodhill Estates is located right up on the corner of 110th and Woodland, and you can see it's about 400, almost 500 units of housing. This plan is to look at that property, and as we begin to study it, to see what we can do to upgrade, redevelop it, and provide a higher level of housing opportunity for the residents in this community. Ms. Burns, along with other residents here at CMHA, are active participants in that process. Indigo Bishop is our Choice Neighborhood Coordinator. She's the person who's on point getting out and working on this. It's not a finished product, but we're continuing to have good meetings with everyone involved to put this plan together. And this project right here, this demolition of this site, strengthens our opportunity to be able to provide, apply for an implementation grant, which will give us the funding to be able to make this plan a reality. So again, I thank the mayor and the councilman for taking such a strong, bold step in getting this out of this community. And I continue to ask all of our residents, all of our participants, to engage in a process of dialogue. We know that there are things that we need to do to be improved. I think together, collectively, we could take the steps to get it going. So again, thank you and appreciate everyone coming.
Good morning. I'll keep my comments brief as everyone before me has essentially really focused on the important things here. I would just like to, I'm Ayana Blue Donald, Director of the Department of Building and Housing. That has been working on this building for years, actually, to get it to this point. So I'd like to thank everyone here today for your patience, the community, because it takes a long time at times to get things to the point where we can actually tear it down. I'd like to thank my staff as well, because it's not an easy row. To the community members that have called Councilman Griffin, trust me, he's called me as many times as you've called him about this building, but I'm thankful that we're at this point today. Also keep in mind that the mayor definitely had the foresight at the beginning of the mortgage crisis to do strategic demolition and to get the residential properties down. As we now are focusing more on the bigger buildings, more so because of an allotment of the $27 million for safe routes. Since the inception, we've raised 943 structures along the safe routes using that funding. We have another 126 structures on contract to date. There are still a lot of structures that need to come down. If you guys have them in your areas, in your neighborhoods, please feel free to give me a call. Please call your council people. Let me know because we're out and about throughout the city, in this neighborhood as well, making sure that the condemned and abandoned and vacant structures have a pathway to come down. So at this point, what will happen is it'll allow time for the camera crew to turn around and get the staging correctly that they need to, and then we'll watch the building start to come down. Also have patience because it is a long process. It is a big building. It will take a couple of weeks for this demolition to be fully complete. But I thank everyone for coming today, and let's bring it down.
Before we end the press conference, I know that they're just walking up, but a partner and a foundation that's really been putting a lot of money in this area and a lot of effort in this area is Ann Goodman, President and CEO of St. Luke's Hospital, and Monique Johnson, who's here with us as well. So if they could, raise their hand, be acknowledged, let's give them a round of applause too. Thank you. Let's tear this thing down. Do we have any questions? Anybody have any questions for the mayor and myself?
No, it's not the focus is primarily on this. We have the opportunity to do this, where we're still focused on residential properties. But as I mentioned, we've come from over 10,000 abandoned properties, mainly residential, to just around 4,000, and after this year it'll be 3,000 and something. But what we never had the resources to do because of the volume of residential are these large buildings. So we're still focused on residential, and we have enough resources and dollars to continue that systematic approach, but we have money also to take advantage of eliminating large structures. This is not the only large structure. Director Donald, why don't you mention some of the other examples of large structures?
Some of the other examples, so this building, as the mayor said, cost a little bit shy of $800,000 to demolish. We tore down 2 on West 65th. That was in the dead of winter, but 3241 West 65th and 3199 West 65th. And when you think about those large commercial demolitions, it really is creating a landscape for future development. In that area, there has been interest in this one as well, with what's going on up the block, CMHA on one end, and Opportunity Corridor on the other end. We're very optimistic to see how this will transform the area. And so we have other demolitions as well that are scheduled and that we're prepping to take advantage of the commercial funding that we have now.
You mentioned the difficulties with getting this building knocked down. What were some of those difficulties? Was it a matter of getting the property? What some of the things that you have to face to knock these things down?
Absolutely. Keep in mind, for every demolition that we do, we have to go through a legal process to make sure that we are authorized and everyone's rights have been vetted to a building. So tracking down the rightful owner, I believe this building went through a tax forfeiture process, so there's always some ambiguity as far as who's the owner, who's the responsible party, but making sure no one wants to come back and reclaim their rights, and that in the long run we can hold the accountable people accountable that need to, as far as the owner, but the legal process, and then quite frankly also the funding. So that's why it's very important that the mayor has allocated funding through the safe routes that we can use for the larger commercial buildings, because there are some funding sources that restrict the larger commercial buildings, and you can only do residential properties.
As far as demolition of these properties is concerned, do they present a whole host of new issues? You mentioned asbestos, environmental issues. Talk about that. How difficult is that process?
Well, yes. Every property has the potential to have an issue. We do check every property, whether it's residential or commercial, for asbestos, but buildings like this that have had a long commercial lifespan, we have to do certain environmental surveys to make sure there aren't any other chemical contaminants in the building or hazardous waste, etc., that may be in the building. Thankfully, this building was fairly clean in the sense of there wasn't a lot of other contaminants, but that is a major issue, is remediation, environmental remediation in commercial buildings such as these. Which essentially has a cost. For this building alone, the asbestos was around $200,000. So if we added other environmental issues, very well, it could have skyrocketed the price.
And this is being funded through Safe Routes. So could you spell out a little bit more how taking this building down will contribute to that effort?
Absolutely. Well, when we started the program, the Safe Routes program, we looked at all of the vacant properties, condemned, ones that still need to be condemned, that were within 1,000 feet. Well, originally it was 500. We expanded it to 1,000 feet within a safe walking route of school. So just having the ability for children and everybody else that takes this route to walk past the building and they're not afraid of what may come out the building at them, or what just lingers in the night in these buildings, is just very important for the stability of neighborhoods and for the security of neighborhoods, period. I mean, I think you have a rec center right up the street. I think it just goes without saying how important it is.
By this building being coming down today, thank God for that. How much of things going around in the air, so to speak, is going to affect any residents or residential areas surrounding this that's being torn down?
So for every demolition, there is an industry standard that you use water to suppress any dust. So that's why it's important that we do remove any friable asbestos before the demolition takes place. And if there's any other potential contaminants in the building, we use water suppression. And so if you're ever anywhere and you see a demolition going on and they're not using water suppression, call me immediately. Call the Building and Housing Department, call the Mayor's Action Center, and we'll get someone out immediately, because it's very important.